A thing's going to happen. A thing's going to happen now.
The stream is live.
Is there things happening?
Yep. We're live. We've been live.
I'm sure. We've been live and it's finished.
We've been live. We've been talking offline for the last hour and we scheduled it to finish at 7. So
excellent. Well, I'm still waiting for something to materialise on you. There we are. It's working. Marvellous. Hello, Daniel. And hello, maybe one or two other people that may be lurking in the chat.
Yeah, I've just heard myself on YouTube. Forgot to mute it.
So what a wally.
That's some good audio there.
Off to a flying start.
And I've made a comment on YouTube, so that's good. Good to see me there.
That'd be the only one.
So far, the only one to comment on the video.
That's fine.
But anyway, shall we get one person watching? I believe that is me.
And me.
And you.
Anyway, so, that's all we need. You know, that's all we need.
We've cut our numbers in half.
Yeah.
Right.
Go on then.
Well, okay. So just for those watching back, normally we talk every day, and I made a point of saying that I didn't want to ask any questions. I didn't want you to tell me anything about the race, so that this would be quite kind of a organic, natural chat rather than me knowing all the answers already.
Yeah.
So let's go back in time. How did this race come about? Because it wasn't originally on your calendar for this year.
No. So originally, the South Downs was going to be the South Downs Way 100, the classic Centurion 100 miler. But unfortunately, due to, rising prices of everything these days, financially, it wasn't very viable. So I went on the hunt for something a bit more cost effective, stumbled across the South Downs 100. So yeah, pretty much £100 cheaper than the South Downs Way. And a very affordable race, and also available to split the payments, which basically made it like a dead cert thing that I was going to give it a go. So yeah, that's how it came about. Obviously pretty similar time in the year, so it fitted into the calendar quite nicely. And that was it. Just threw my name into the arena.
So this is not Centurion. Who are these people?
So UK Ultra, a Eastbourne based race company. They've got about 4 or 5 events currently on their calendar. Obviously the South Downs, they have, how many is it? 4 races on that same day, well, over that same weekend. So you've got the 100 mile, 100k, 50 mile, 20 mile, I think, and then half marathon. So what's that? Is that 5?
Yeah.
So yeah, all taking place over Saturday and Sunday on that bank holiday weekend in May.
But it's the first time you've run with this organization, this company.
Yeah.
Cool. And you were thinking, what was the thinking behind 100 miler? Because you have done one before, but why 100 again this year?
Well, I kind of like the experience of the North Downs Way, and I thought, right, so I've done the North, let's do the South, and then I've experienced them both, and I can see what one's my favourite. Obviously, I'm still going to say North Downs Way has always got a special place in my heart because we live on it. But it was good to experience the South Downs. The scenery's stunning. So, yeah, really, really pleased to have done it, and enjoyed every second.
Awesome. So when you booked this race, what time of year was it you booked it? It was early.
Oh, crikey! It may have well been January, I think.
So that gave you how many weeks? 20 weeks? 24 weeks of training?
Yeah, pretty much bang on. That said, though, I think training pretty much started before that anyway.
Yeah.
Because initially I had planned to do the Highland Fling, which is a 50 miler, and that was in April, and that was going to be the build up for the South Downs Way 100. So basically, it sort of bumped everything forward. But the Highland Fling didn't end up coming off in the end as well. So that was another race that I didn't end up doing. But yeah, I mean, I did a 50-mile training run in the lead up to the South Downs 100 anyway. But yeah, it kind of worked out the same as it would have if it had been the South Downs Way and the Highland Fling. Everything just sort of fell into place, really. Kind of lucky.
Yeah, and in terms of your training as well, it's probably fair to say that in the last 12 months, you've been consistently training anyway. Like you didn't have massive amount of downtime after the North Downs Way 100. You seem to just get back into it and keep I think I looked at your Strava this year. It says your average run per week is 100k, and
Yeah.
that's with 36 days off so far this year.
Oh, wow.
But
You
maintaining
actually
100k.
looked into the stats, mate. Thank you.
I did look into the stats, because I just thought to
Appreciate that.
myself, I know you've run obviously a lot, and I just thought, what does that actually look like? And yeah, I'm just looking at it now actually. So 123 runs year to date, and there's I think
Right.
159 days so far, just so you know.
Okay.
257 hours of running.
What, this year?
Yep.
Oh, that's depressing, isn't it?
And that's 2,547 kilometers. So if you just take that into just that on its own,
Okay.
that's still pretty hefty training ahead of a
Yeah.
100 miler. But then you go back 6 months, and you probably, I can't see it on mine, but I'd imagine that actually
I was probably,
similar picture.
yeah, for sure. I was probably doing that sort of, let's say 100k a week from October, maybe.
Yeah.
So I had North Downs as the, like, what was it, the end of August, middle of the end of August. And then I sort of had a bit of a down month in September. And then I thought, all right, it's time to ramp it back up again. So yeah.
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 And then
Wow.
so
But I didn't know about this year though. That's crazy.
I thought I'd look into it.
Thank you for looking into that.
Yeah. Just because I know that you run a lot, and I started thinking to myself, well, actually, wonder how much downtime you've had off, because you do have downtime off in the week and things like that, but it only equates to 30 days so far this year, which I think's, in terms of consistency as well. And also you've been injury free for best part of a year or more, which year, touch wood, but that makes a massive difference. Obviously you've been able to be consistent the entire time.
Yep.
And in terms of your recovery, you were saying to me the other day about actually it's not necessarily about how much you're running, it's more the ability to recover and to continue running. And that's something you seem to have got into quite a good pattern with.
Really dialed that in now. Before I would sort of just not bother, but now I'm making a conscious effort to think, all right, I've got a bit of free time here, say like an hour. What can I do that will help me get out tomorrow or later on today? So just getting a foam roller out, massage gun, doing a bit of stretcher. Yoga has been something that I've been really enjoying. And I think I mentioned it in one of my videos during the training series. The Recover app has been really, really good. So yeah.
And is that linked to Strava, Recover app?
Yeah. So the Recover app is like a free companion app. So if you're a Strava premium member, you get that as part of the subscription. But it's really good. It just gives you loads of different guided workouts for different parts of your body. Say if you've got like a little bit of a niggle in your hamstring or whatever, it will set you out a workout plan, say for 20 minutes, and it'll give you a load of different exercises and stretches to do to help you, specifically with that. So yeah, really good little tool to have if you've got Strava Premium.
Yeah, that's awesome. And in terms of also your training as well, I don't know if people are necessarily aware, but you've probably been out in the worst weather we've had this year. Like anytime we've had shocking weather, you've been out in it, and you've been out at 2, 3 a.m. things like that. And it was only recently when I was sort of thinking about it and talking about it that essentially you prepared yourself for those conditions.
No a horrible winter ultra.
Yeah, nobody wants to run in the rain. Nobody wants to run in the dark. But equally, if you're doing a 100 miler, you've got to expect you're definitely going to see some darkness, and almost certainly there's going to be some weather changes. You might be lucky and get away with no rain, but that in itself, what's your approach with that? Have you decided the night before I'm going for a run, and you wake up wherever the weather you're going?
Yeah. Well, for me, I just think I need to run. I need to get these sessions done. So there's nothing I can do about the weather. So there's no need to shy away from it. If I'm just going to be a fair weather runner, I'm never going to do any races because, as you well know, anything can happen on race day. There's nothing you can control about it.
Yeah.
So you've just got to do it when you can, and and put it down as experience. It's like, yes, you're gaining the benefit of training and running a set distance of miles, but you're also getting that experience of being out in terrible conditions, and it's mental as well. So
yeah,
benefits across the board.
Do you ever not want to go?
Every time. Yeah. If I would say I was getting up early at like 5 in the morning or 4 or whatever, and looking out the door and it's pitch black and it's raining, it's not appealing to anyone. But you just got to have that sort of discipline and I don't know, sort of a mental disorder. I'm,
Yeah,
you got to have a couple of screws missing.
yeah,
But you just got to say to yourself, if you want to get the results, you've got to put in the work, and let's just go. And once you get into it, it's not as bad as you think. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, you've covered off like 5 or 6K, and you're like a bit cold at first, but once you get warmed up and you get used to the rain hitting your
yeah.
face, uh, it's
Mm.
it's fine.
But also at the same time, you've got a family, you've got a full-time job. You can't be heading out for 6 hours at 10
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning. You've got to get it all done. I know, obviously, for your weekend, you protect the family time. And that's again what I've spoken to people before about in the past. Just occasionally when I've done early morning runs, they say it's a bit mad, but it doesn't impact my family if I do that. If I
Uh-huh.
go out later in the day, I've got to negotiate the time around the family. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, just it protects everyone's peace of mind and the happiness at home if you can get out and come back before you've even woken up.
That's it. And going back to the point we just had about why going out at silly AM and the horrible rain and stuff, is because like you get out, you get it done, and you've like put in some decent work, and then you can have the rest of the day with your family, like have some fun, with the kids
Yeah.
and that, and go out and do something really enjoyable. And you've had a horrible session in the rain and wind, but
Mm.
you can get home, relax, have some family time, rather than trying to fit it in around everything else. And it just works really nicely as a family unit for us to do it that way. So yeah, we'll
Yeah.
just keep it going.
So I know what your reason for running was when you started, but what's your reason for running now? Because obviously going out that many times a week, what's the point? Why are you doing that?
Um, well, I guess it's just trying to get better at what I'm doing. Well, I've got to a
Mm.
point now where I'm like really happy with how I perform. Like I've got much better over the
Be
years, obviously, since
yourself.
I started.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just trying to maintain that, and also obviously with the whole YouTube thing here, sharing my journey is
Mm.
a lot of pressure of people watching, and you're expecting not. I suppose you're not expecting a result. It's just it feels to me like people want to see me do well, and like even my family, like the boys, like I want them to look back and say, "Oh, Dad, there's something really, really cool there," and them to be proud of me. So that's why I do it now. Obviously,
Yeah.
as you say, I started it because Zachary was born, and that's what started me running. But now it's to show them, like, if you work hard, train at something, then these are the kind of things you can achieve. So that's what keeps me
Yeah.
going now. Yeah,
And we've said this before anyway, people who ask me about YouTube and same with you. I always just think, well, it's somewhere to document my journey, my story. And yeah, my children aren't old enough to really care right now, but 10 years' time, if videos still available to look back from day one when I was in the gym on a treadmill with the camera pointing down and just picking videos out is quite nice even for me to look back and go, what was I doing 3 years ago?
yeah,
Here's a race. Here's a little vlog that pops up. And I always encourage people just to record their stuff. You could leave it private if you want to, but it's just quite nice to have that. And like you
yeah,
say, we'll talk about it more later with the way you filmed the run. But I definitely think there is a point where if you're aware you've got a bit of a following on YouTube, it does change your approach to running because you want to document it in a certain way, and actually you want to get out and, like you say, a result is important in some sense, but you're going to document it anyway.
yeah.
Um,
And I think we're quite lucky in the way that our community is so like supportive. Even if
mm,
I'd blown up and walked it in, or maybe even if I'd DNF'd, I'm pretty sure everyone here in the chat tonight, including yourself, you would have still given me loads of support and been very, all right about it. But
yeah,
you know, it's even
but
better when you do get those results. So
it is. But also, what would have been good is you would have put that video up. You'd have
yeah,
DNF, and that's why people have been positive about it because posting about a DNF and then never seeing the footage, in some respects, would be more
yeah,
disappointing. And I
yeah,
see
yeah,
that Mike's jumped in the chat, so he would have been disappointed. Um, but we
If
can't
I
please
DNF,
everybody. Can't please everybody.
that's all right. I'll be going back next year, and I'll just, just walk off the course halfway. That's fine,
But
just
that's
to
the thing as
please you,
well,
Mike.
isn't it? You would you're somebody who, whatever happens on the day, you're either looking to go back and do it better, do it again,
Mhm.
or you're happy with the results. So you've been training, you've got some good recovery in place, and then at what point then, close to race day, and you go for your big long run that you did, which for anybody who doesn't know was a solo effort, 60 miles, 60 miles.
I think it's 55.
Yeah. 55 miles. So that's the decision you've made because you're looking to try and experience some of the course and areas of the route, which essentially is blind to you. You've never experienced them before. You map out a route that means you're experiencing what you're going to on the race day. Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, the whole thinking behind that long run was to run a long way along trails that I'd never run on before. But I mean, they're still relatively local. So I was going from home to a part of the course, like so the first 10 miles, I think it was, of the race course. But along the way, I hadn't run, let's say 40 miles worth of that trail all the way down. And for me, the thinking behind it was psychologically to run to points where I don't know when they're coming up. So I could just have to keep moving and just look at the watch and think, right, okay, so I've got 5 miles to here. What does this look like? And just trying to sort of stay out of my own head, think, oh God, this is a bit of a slog kind of thing. Just exploring and taking the journey for what it was, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to get out on the South Downs and do like recce days, just drive down there and do like, I don't know, 10K of this section and that section. That wasn't going to happen. Because again, family life, that's the priority at the weekend. I can't we've only got one car. I can't be going off gallivanting here, there and everywhere on the South Downs just to recce the route. So for me, that's kind of the way I approached it, was use it as more of a mental thing rather than a fitness thing. Because I know I could do 50 miles. I mean, I've done it before, so I know I can go the distance, but that was on the North Downs Way, and that's areas that I know. So to do this run on pretty much completely unknown trails, I thought would help replicate race day, because I'm not going to have seen any of the South Downs. So hopefully that'll give me the right frame of mind to keep pushing on when I'm knackered and not knowing what's up next, when the hills are coming, where the aid stations are going to be. Just got to just keep going until you find what you want, really, whether that be the petrol station to get the food or and things like that. Just keep going until you get to where you need to be, kind of thing, and just stay out of your own mind. That was the whole thinking behind that long run anyway.
And didn't you do it on a Sunday where things weren't open anyway?
Yes. Foolishly, I picked the best day of the week to do it on.
So, but the idea behind that is you're a number of weeks out from your big race, and it's a good self-esteem boost. Just give you reassurance. I've got 50 miles at least in the legs, and again, it's on territory you've never explored before.
Yeah, I mean, those couple of weeks of training were pretty heavy as well. Like, I think I'd done 100-mile week the week before that, and then that was at the end of the following week. So it was like I was pretty knackered by the time that run came round, and it was good to see that I still had enough energy in the legs to cover the distance, and as I say, with all that mental stuff going on and not knowing where I'm going and what's coming up, it was good. It was a good training week, and that run definitely helped me out physically and mentally.
And how are you occupying your thoughts? Listening to music, thinking about something, nothing? You don't have to say what you're thinking about, but are you just experiencing it, or are you kind of thinking, okay, well, this is 10 miles in now, I've got the pack on my back, I should be thinking about nutrition at this point?
Yeah, that's it. You're just busy in your mind with things, like it's the same as race day. You're just literally trying to dial in what you'll be doing on race day. So I think like every hour I've got to think, right, I've got to have 60 grams of carb. Have I done that? Yes. Move on. In terms of like entertainment and keep myself going, podcasts are a big thing for me. So yeah, the Ultra Sound System podcast, I like listening to that with Anna and Ali. Trail and Error I listen to a lot. Tea and Trails, like those kind of, just having that sort of bit of chatter when you're on your own for 8-9 hours does speed things along a little bit. So that's what I did.
I think I said before as well, when you're filming, for people who don't know, if you're filming when you're on a run, that is almost someone to talk to sometimes. It seems quite peculiar, but almost if there's a moment of actually I've not spoken to anybody for a while, just getting a camera out and just kind of throwing it about. You might even use the footage, you might just be deleted afterwards, but there's something about that. I think sometimes talk to camera and I feel like I've had a chat with somebody and away it goes.
Yeah, especially when you're feeling a little bit knackered and you're just trying to, it's a good way of bringing yourself out of a dark place in your head. just
Yeah.
getting it out there, vocalizing your experience and how you're feeling is
Yeah.
a really, really powerful tool. So
I
yeah,
can only speak from
get,
my experience, but I
get
feel like
yourself a
once,
GoPro.
yes, have a GoPro. Once you go past that kind of like 3 hour mark, I feel like that's when you start overthinking or just thinking about stuff that's a lot deeper than surface level, day to day, what we're having for dinner tonight. And that tends to be quite, I don't know, I find that quite nice just to kind of go into my own thoughts and have some time on your own,
Yeah.
work it out. So you've done the run, you're feeling good, and you're a few weeks out from the race. So what are you then doing next? You've got a team of people that are booked in to pace you. How does that all work? What are the rules and regs around that?
So for the race, you could have a crew from, oh crikey, I want to say, I think it was quite early on. I think it was only sort of like 20 miles maybe in. You could have crew from, or maybe even less than that. Maybe it's 13 miles actually. So yeah, they can support you at various different points. It wasn't as regimented as the Centurion races because I know in their 100 milers they give you set locations where your crew can be. But for this race, they're quite happy for you to be anywhere on the course except for 2 points. I think it was like some around Saddlescombe Farm, and there was somewhere else. So they don't go there. They're quiet villages. They don't want hassle. But other than that, you had free reign to pick where you wanted your crew to meet, which was really, really handy. So basically, sat down, loaded up the GPX on the computer, went through it all, and just sort of plotted the aid stations on first, and then tried to chunk that up and put some crew spots in between each one, because I know some people in the past that have done this race have sort of had their crew meet them just after an aid station. But for me, I was like, I don't know if that's going to work psychologically, and you're not going to get any benefit from it because you're going to be seeing an aid station and your crew pretty much at the same time. You know, they're both going to have food. Like, what are you gaining from that? So I thought if I chunk it down a little bit more, so going from every 11K gaps between each thing, I can have a 5, a 6, a 5 and a 6, you know, like that, and just breaks the race up a lot more. And definitely paid dividends with the heat during the day as well, having those more regular stops.
So you've sat down with your crew and you've sort of shared this with them. And what was a plan going to race? What's the deal with crew? What do they do? What do you need them to do? What have you asked them to do?
Everything. They just do everything. So my mum and dad were crewing me on the day. Very kind of them again to support me. And basically, I gave my mum the task of topping up the sun cream. So that was her main main job throughout the day, just keep me burn free. And then my dad, obviously, he was an absolute legend at the North Downs, and he just knew exactly what he was doing. So he was just making sure my bottles were ready to rock and roll and getting rid of all that sort of faff. We were in bottles, more stuff, food in pockets, and go. So we kind of had that conversation, a couple of weeks before, but my dad already knew the drill anyway. And my mum, I think my mum was there just for moral support, really. It's just nice to her to, you know, give me a cheer. It's good to see. And and just also keep my dad awake as well. And alert. So he had some company, because I'm sure that must be an absolutely miserable experience to be sat in a car in the middle of nowhere on your own for God knows how many hours. So yeah, it was good that they were together and to keep themselves going, and it was nice for me to see them as well. So yeah.
And then you've got a pacing team as well. How did that all materialize?
The dream team. So basically, I reached out to Danielle and asked if she could help in any way, and she just said, whatever you need, I'll help. Initially, I wanted Adam to pace me again, same setup as we had for the North Downs, but unfortunately he couldn't do it. So Danielle very kindly stepped into the role of pacing, and she brought along with her Rob, and that was sort of just an additional person for logistics with cars and their transport and stuff. So that's how that materialized. But it was good to have a change of person as well. Just gave it a bit of variety, because Rob and Danielle, obviously very different people. And it was just nice to have, you know, different bit of banter, especially in those later stages of the race. But yeah,
cool.
I can't thank them enough as well. Like, I don't know what I'd have done without them.
No,
it would have been a very different race.
Yeah, I think you said before about the North Downs as well, like the difference that having somebody especially at the later stages, all through the night, makes to get into the end,
Yeah,
and
for
how
sure.
easy it would be to probably get lost in your own head and talk yourself into a decision
Hmm.
which you wouldn't ordinarily make if somebody else was there.
Yeah, I would like to say I'm probably mentally strong enough anyway to push through.
Mm,
But having those people there just definitely does elevate the experience. Like it makes those dark moments a lot more manageable.
mm,
So you can just sort of snap out of it a little bit quicker.
yeah,
There's definitely that could be something for the future. I think maybe just try a 100 without any support and just sort of see how it goes. Like really experience the raw
yeah.
journey of just you doing it solo. That would be something I'd like to try.
I guess as well in that situation, depends how fast you're going to go. If you're finishing it in, let's say, an 18-hour, 19-hour, that's a big difference to finish it in 28 hours, isn't it?
Yeah,
On your own.
yeah, for sure.
So race day is coming up. You're like a week away. You're checking the weather. We've had sort of relatively mild-ish weather, a bit of heat, not silly heat, but enough to make a difference because this race starts at midday, doesn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, like I say, start at midday, and by then you're already knackered. Because I remember on race morning, I had to get up super early because I'd forgotten to pack some extra jackets. So I had to go. I had to get up early, takes 2 extra rain jackets that I was going to put in the crew bag over to my parents, and then come back. So I was up at like 5 anyway, and out the door at 6. So I could have done without that. But with it starting so late in the day, obviously you're starting in the hottest part of the day,
Mm,
which has its pros and cons because you're already kind of getting the worst of the heat out of the way straight away.
yeah,
But because it's been so late in the day, you're already really knackered. So when you move into the nighttime section, you've been already going for a long time. Yes, you haven't been running for as long, but you've been
yeah,
awake, because with the centurion ones that start in the morning, it's like you pretty much wake up and you start running. But now
mm,
in this situation, I'm awake, done half a day already, and then I'll start racing. And then by the time the morning comes the following day, you're really, really knackered, and you've still got, say, another 30, 40K to go.
yeah. But I suppose, obviously, in terms of starting 5 a.m., there's a possibility you can be finishing within 24-hour period, start
Yeah.
the next morning instead of going kind of into the full day again and
Yeah.
experience more heat if you did a 24-hour.
Yeah. This is it. Because when I did the North Downs, obviously 7 till I think it was about 5 o'clock or something, 5:15 when I finished. Now this I was running till 10 the following day.
Mm,
So yeah, you see more of the night. It was the sun was just coming up as I finished the North Downs. This I'd done the whole night, and then
yeah,
nearly half of the following day.
yeah,
So yeah, in terms of actual like tiredness, that hit me more hard, I think, than like physically being drained, like my legs hurting or anything. I was just felt sleepy. There was moments during the race, like particularly early hours of the morning, where I was like physically yawning.
right,
And yeah, the caffeine saved me there.
fine. So you turn up, you're at the start point. There's a 64 runners. Was it 64?
Yeah, something like that. 64, 63. Yeah,
So a
it
slightly
wasn't a huge
smaller
field.
field.
Hmm.
What are you, in terms of like kit, what have you decided at this point to put in the bag? Did you make any changes, or had you already decided this is what I'm going to be wearing from the start, kind of regardless of conditions?
No, I knew that I wanted to, like, literally everything that I had on the day that decision had been made like
Mm,
2 weeks before, so that wasn't a question of what I was going to wear. The things that I added last minute, it's like the extra jackets,
yeah,
that was because of the rain that I'd seen forecast through the night. And because I wanted to pack light because of the heat, the jacket I had in the back of my vest wasn't, up to scratch. So I thought if it really does hammer it down, I'm going to need additional stuff. So
yeah,
that was the only sort of thing that I changed last minute, was packing them with the crew stuff, because I still wanted to stay light and breathable for the daytime with it being so hot. I think it was like 22 or something,
yeah.
23 that day. So yeah, I didn't want to carry a heavy jacket in the bag from the start. I thought if I could just leave it with the crew, at least then I've got the option to stick them on, and that definitely was the right call to make.
So you look at weather, when you see it's going to rain, is that messing with your head?
No, because of what you said earlier about, you know,
Mm.
getting out in the winter. I've already done it. I've seen it. You
Yeah,
know, I've been through that. The heat was the bigger concern for me during the day, because we hadn't really had many hot days like that. Maybe like what, a week at best
yeah,
of good weather, and then it went back to being sort of mediocre and pretty on and off rain. So yeah, the heat was my main concern, and trying to stay hydrated
yeah,
and yeah, cramp free. But I mean, it was a bit hit and miss with that. um, I did my best, but that was my main concern: the heat rather than the rain. I wasn't bothered by that. I just thought, oh, it's just another rainy night. It's fine.
yeah. And also possibly quite welcome if it's been a hot day and you know you might get a bit cooked. I'm sure
Yeah.
probably a light relief of knowing that it's just going to temperature going to just drop down a bit.
Yeah, it was certainly a race of two halves. Like
Mm,
I said that to you. Like if I had to describe it, that's how I would. Because of that, the wind and the rain, it was just ferocious. Like when you're up on the downs, because they're so exposed, it
yeah,
was, oh, it was yeah, brutal. Of
absolutely brutal.
absolutely brutal, mate. So
Okay,
yeah, yeah, it's crazy. The weather conditions so drastically
changing.
different from night and day.
Because we spoke before about the fact that if it was going to be warm and obviously no cloud in sight, that was going to be also a different kind of race for you. If it was going to be
Mhm.
26 degrees and then maybe dropping to, I don't know, 18 through the night, it was going to be overall
Yeah,
probably quite a slog. So yeah, variable conditions, but not as hot as it could have been, but still definitely warmer than we'd experienced. Plus, on top of that, you hadn't really done any long runs midday because, as we came
no.
back to before, family, work commitments, no
Mhm.
possibility to head out when it's the heat of the
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Mm,
Again, that's one of the reasons why I was worried about it. That's the
yeah,
concern, was being out there, you know, for 8 hours potentially in 20+ degrees.
mm,
Luckily it didn't turn out being 8 hours of heat. I think it was probably only about 5 or something. It did
yeah,
start to cool down quite nicely about sort of 5:30, 6 o'clock.
mm,
So I was pretty pleased with that. Um, and then yeah, just trying to get back on top of that cramp from the lack of hydration and stuff, because like not training in the heat, you're not taking on as much fluid anyway, and that's one of the things that I didn't practice for. You know, like when you're running in the winter, you don't really feel like you should be necking 1.5 liters of water.
yeah,
But in hindsight, I should have been, because it would have paid dividends. Maybe I wouldn't have had the sort of cramping that I got on the day.
yeah,
But it's hard to train for every eventuality, isn't it? So
yeah,
all in all, I'm pretty pleased with how I handled it. So can't
yeah.
complain too much.
And you're able to obviously continue moving forward. So let's talk about the first bit. In my mind, what I want to hear about is that first 5 or 10K, because it's quite a small field. I guess not too spread out. At that point, I suppose
Yeah.
you're just double checking the kit. Obviously, you're running it a lot, but just again, race day, you want to make sure you're setting off. Nothing is sort of impacting on you in terms of rubbing and things like that. So, what's the first 10K or the first bit into aid station one like for you?
Um, Pretty quick, it turned out on the day. Probably too quick. I think if you look at the splits, you're like, what is this guy doing? Who does he think he is? But I think that was always my strategy, was to try and sort of bank a lot of time, because I
Yep.
knew I wanted to try and beat my North Downs way time. So I had that 22-hour target in mind. Well, sub 22, but you know what I mean. So my thinking behind it was just to go out as fast as I could, say try and keep a sort of 20-hour-ish pace for as long as I could, and then sort of fade to finish from then. So the first 10K was pretty quick. We were sort of like up the front with Tom, Andrew, and
Yeah.
another guy, Adam, at the start. Um, and yeah, we were running sort of like 5 minute, anywhere between sort of 5 and 6 minute kilometers, which is quite pacey for me, especially in a 100-mile race. You know, that's
Yeah.
probably what I'd run a 50K at, or even like a 20K round here. You know, if I wanted to push the pace a little bit. I think even my fastest split was like 4:46 or something. So we were running sub 5 minute kilometers at points. So way too quick for
Yeah.
100 miler, but that was kind of the plan. And it was nice to have the boys at the front, like pushing. Everyone was like pushing each other at the front, and it was I think from the start we knew we were going to be up there on at the front pack pretty
Yeah.
much the whole way, and we were all sort of like pushing each other quite hard at the start. So yeah, it was planned, but everyone else sort of helped along with that as well,
Yeah.
subconsciously.
And was there any conversation with them whilst you're sort of running near and around them that what they were aiming for? Did you know that it was worth kind of sticking with them? Did they have a similar plan to you?
Yeah. So I spoke to Tom, who was the race winner, because I met him at the North Downs. He came fourth for the North Downs 100, so I already knew him, and we've been chatting a lot in the build up to the race. And I'm like, "What's your plan?" kind of thing. And he sort of said the same thing as me. Obviously, he's a much more experienced and faster in general runner than I am. But I thought if I can sort of stick with you guys for as long as I can, that will set me up nicely to just hopefully be somewhere in the top 10.
Yeah.
I would, yeah, but positions weren't the thing. It was always trying to beat that 22 hour. And I thought if I can get the top 10 in this race, that should bring me in under that, looking at previous results. So yeah.
So there's the race continues. At what point are you seeing sort of mum and dad for the first time? Did you say it was after what station 2, 3, something like that?
The first time I saw them, that's a good question. I think it was after the second aid station. I want to say maybe even the third, but yeah, I think it was about 25 miles in. I want to say I think it was the first time I saw them. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I
Could
felt
be
from your
20.
video it was quite a way in, because when you mentioned earlier about when you could have crew, I suddenly thought, well,
Yeah.
I'm sure you're quite a way through it, because
I mean, I could look, but I'm too lazy. I
'cause
think it was about
yeah.
20 miles in, because I thought about how I spaced out in the North Downs. I didn't need them till I was, I think 32, I think was the first crew stop, 32
Yeah.
miles into that. I thought it's not worth seeing you before then. I'm pretty sure I can handle myself up to nearly marathon distance. So I think it was about 20, somewhere between 20 and 25 miles was the first time I saw them. But yeah, definitely came at the right time, because of that, as I say, the heat caught me out big time.
Yeah. And why could you have been in communication with them to say, I need a bit of an SOS here. I need X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, well, that's the good thing about this race as well, is the fact that they didn't really have set crew points. So if you felt like, oh, can I see you again in like a mile and a half or 2 miles, you could quite happily organise that. So that was something we did. Not at the start. I know towards the end we had quite a big gap between an aid station and a crew spot. And my dad sort of suggested, oh, should we just sort of see you in, I don't know, 2 miles or something, just to give you a cheer or whatever, just check out what's going on. And so we did that. And then there was another bit after Daniel and Rob had swapped. And Rob decided to drive down to near Beachy Head. And he was just there in the car park just to see us, because it was between the last aid station and the finish, and we didn't have any crew spots. So I just said, just go to the end. But Rob just stopped there just to check everything that's going. So having that flexibility in where you can see people was very, very handy, especially in the later stages. Yeah.
So there was a point when I called you, which is rare to do. I would never normally call you during a race, but I called you and your dad had called you at the same time. And it was linked to my question around map work on the watch and signage, because there was a point when Tom, race leader, went wrong. My understanding, from what I could see the dot watching, suddenly he came sort of basically down towards what I'm looking at on my phone. Yeah, you're going along. He then came down, and I was at my parents. Oh, well, I've got to call Ben. I've got to call Ben, because I wasn't sure at that point, because you don't have any idea how far behind you are, whether you kind of in the autopilot moment of, well, I'm just kind of sticking with Tom. He's running ahead. So what in terms of signage? How could that mistake have happened?
Well, obviously I can't speak for Tom and what he did. I've seen his sort of race recap thing, and he was sort of a bit annoyed at himself that he let himself go off course. So maybe he just did, like, thought he was following the signage and just kept going. That said, though, there wasn't much in the way of confidence tape. So you'd get with the Centurion, you get the hanging flags. There wasn't much of that for at least the first half. So it was all sort of, you'd come to a junction and there would just be an arrow. It would just be a left, a right, straight on. So unless you're looking out for those, or keeping a pretty solid eye on your watch, you could just sail
Quite
past
possible to
it.
do. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and a lot of them were like a navy blue background with a white arrow, so they weren't like jumping out at you. They weren't like bright orange or anything. There was the odd one that
Right.
was yellow that they printed off and laminated, but they're specifically made ones that are like made of plastic or whatever, weren't really jumping off the page at you, you know what I mean? So
No.
unless you were pretty on it looking at finger posts as you were approaching junctions, you may well have missed it. So
Okay.
maybe I could understand how Tom did it, but I'm just like, I don't know where he went wrong or what he did.
No.
But lucky I didn't do whatever he did. So
Yeah, I just wonder because again, I'm only used to Centurion, where it's relatively well signposted. I know you had it on your watch
yeah,
as well, and it didn't look like you were planning to go wrong. And by the time I spoke with you, you had already passed that
yeah.
that spot anyway. So was there a point when you thought, "Oh, I'm in the lead here. This is quite nice." Just for a moment, were you just thinking, "Oh,
Yeah, I kind of thought, I was like, yes, wow, I'm first place here. But then I also did think, I was like, oh, we've not even done 40 miles yet.
yeah,
It's a long day in the office, and I know Tom is definitely going to catch me up, regardless of how
yeah,
far wrong he goes, because he's that quick. And he
yeah,
didn't disappoint in that front, because it wasn't long before he caught me back up again. But yeah, I was pretty chuffed with myself, but I'd already kind of made peace with it. When he caught me, I already kind of made peace. So I was like, I'm not here to win.
no,
Like, yes, it would be amazing, but I'm not here to. I'm not going to
no,
kill myself. I'm not going to bust the gut and like try and
yeah,
smash out some ridiculous paces that I can't maintain. I've still got a long way to go, and I'd much rather make it to the finish than try and hold first for 60 miles and then
yeah,
completely trash myself and end up DNFing. So
yeah.
I kind of, yeah, I think I played it well.
Well, like, yeah, I agree. So we get to, let's say, 50 miles. How long has that taken you? So you started at 12. So I guess at 50 miles, it's starting. I mean, it's quite like evenings now, isn't it? But it's
Yeah.
starting to get towards evening. Are you thinking first half done? What are you planning ahead of a night?
It's kind of hard to explain. I didn't really think about it as in, oh, first half done. I just kind of thought about, I've I've still got a long way to go.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's kind of hard. I don't want to fixate on distance covered and distance remaining. I just wanted to just keep moving forward until I saw Helen Garden and Eastbourne. So yeah, it was just like, I suppose going into the night, I had to make a conscious decision to focus on eating again,
yeah,
trying to get something really substantial down. So yeah, Findon, that was awesome. The pizza there was great. So shout out to the ladies that were manning Findon aid station, because they definitely did provide the goods. So yeah, I don't know. I just took it as it came, really. I didn't
okay,
really have too much of a strategy behind it. It was just make sure that I keep eating, because we're now going into the business end, you know.
yeah,
A lot of people say 100 miles is 350s.
mm,
You think about it, I've only done one. So, I've still got two of those three to go, even though it's not really, but you know what I mean?
yeah.
Psychologically, and when your legs are gone,
They're
it feels
gone.
like it is.
Because I'm guessing in terms of the 50-mile races you've done and things like that, you're mainly hydration, gels, not a huge amount of real food, solid food. But what's happened in this first kind of half-ish of the race so far? Have you been hitting real food? What is that looking like?
So yeah, bit of everything really, I think, for the first half. Couple of like mini Cornish pasties with my parents. They had a load of different things, like Cornish pasties, sausage rolls, all those, the classics.
Yeah,
Fruit at the aid stations, just for something a little bit different. Crisps at the aid stations as well, ready salted. Sandwiches, Marmite sandwiches, they went in quite well. But yeah, I was just trying to hit as much as I could while I could. And I'm glad I did, because my stomach didn't hold up. Like, once the cramping started, I mentioned it in the video, once the cramp started, it became hard to put real food in because of my stomach, and I'm taking the salt to deal with the cramp, and then
yeah,
the salt's setting my stomach off. So I'm glad I ate when I did. But yeah, it was just a case of throwing in whatever I saw on the table that I fancied the look of, really.
Because I know you did a bit of I know you had done some training before where you more or less eaten dinner and then just gone straight out for a run, like literally minutes afterwards, as kind of training into that. What's it like to run on a incredibly full, instantly full stomach?
Yeah, oddly, I find that a really enjoyable experience. I don't know why. I feel like I've got so much more energy. So if you haven't tried it, it's definitely worth a go, mate. I wouldn't go for a curry or anything like that, but just, I don't know, something. Just have I don't know, spaghetti bolognese or something pretty non-offensive, and then run on it and see how you feel. Because it's not as bad as you think. Most people, once you get used to it, it's not that bad. Like the first couple of times you try it, obviously you feel a bit bloated, but it's definitely something worth practicing. Like everything else with these kind of races, you know, you just got to give it a go and throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks, mate. So,
do you want to talk about the Crampex?
Oh God, no! I do not want to talk about Crampex. Crampex, if you're watching, not interested. It's horrible stuff. I don't know if anyone in the chat has got any experience with Crampex, but Danielle pulled some out of her pack. Oh God, I don't know where it was. I want to say around about 60 miles in, about 100k. And I said, I've been suffering with cramp. To be fair, at this point, it kind of subsided a little bit, so it wasn't as bad. But she said, "Oh, take this stuff." And I said, "Okay, right, I'll give it." At this point, I'll just give anything a go. So I took it, and it was the most horrible taste I've ever had. It was like drinking vinegar or like nail polish remover. It was horrible. Just burnt the back of your throat. It's the most sour thing I've ever tasted. It was dire. And then later on, I said, "Have you tried that? What do you think of it?" And she'd never tried it herself, so she properly stitched me up. It's like I was the guinea pig for it. I mean, to be fair, it did clear the cramp up, but like I say, it was going anyway.
Yeah.
I think that having the taste in my mouth just took my mind off the pain of the cramp.
Was the pain of the cramp.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Not to be sponsored by Crampex.
Definitely not. I'm not interested. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's great, and it's got loads of scientific backing. But God, you need to work on the flavour of it.
So, at what point is the rain coming in? Are you already head toward John? When has the rain started? Have you got the benefit of a bit of light when that started coming in?
No. So it was dark. Head torch was on. Rain came in. And it came in pretty well. Actually, I'll say it wasn't that bad. For the first sort of hour, it was like a light drizzle, and I was pretty pleased. But luckily, I'd met with Rob before it really started dumping down, and it really did came in. So I had, from my kit, I put an extra windproof jacket, which I'd taken from my parents at the previous cruise stop, just as it started spitting, and I was quite happy. I was like, "Oh, this is lightweight, it's breathable, it's fine. Water's just running off it, it'll be fine." But then when it started coming down, I had to put my other waterproof jacket on, which was the Innovate one that I'd packed in my bag, and I put that on as well. So at the time, I had 2 jackets at once, and it was raining so hard it went through both of those. So yeah, and then by the time I'd met Danielle, she had another jacket, which was like my ultimate direction jacket, which I always use, slightly thicker. And she said, just get those 2 jackets off, put another base layer on and another jacket. So I had a pretty much full kit change then, because the rain was that bad. And to be fair, in Danielle's defense, that probably, again, it's one of the things that saved the race, to be honest. If she hadn't have like mothered me in into line at that point and said, right, do this, do that, this is what you need, because obviously she knows what she's doing. She's done way more things than I could ever dream of. So I just took her word for it, and I think definitely saved the race there.
And these are conditions that have been used to, obviously, but not used to when you've got knackered legs. You've done your runs in the morning, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., whatever. It's hammering down with rain, but you are essentially heading home. You can reason with yourself, actually, if I get wet for the next hour and a half, I'm fine.
Yeah.
So at this point, any point, have you been thinking so far, what am I doing?
Yeah, at the start line. Especially stood at the start line, on the front of the start line, the front row. I'm like, why am I here? Like, I should not be on the front of this start line. Okay, yes, I've worked hard to get to here. I've earned my spot on this start line, but I should not be lining up on the front of this start line. So that was my first, what are you doing here? I think I even said, Tom, I said, mate, I've got really bad imposter syndrome stood here next to you at the front of this lineup. But Yeah, it all came good on the end.
Yeah.
But other than that, like seriously, when it got to it, in the really horrible wind and rain in the middle of the night, I was just enjoying it to a degree as well. So I never once thought I'm going to stop.
No.
It was the pure adventure of it. I just love it. I really do. So even in the darkest times, I was still having the time of my life.
And what was really good about it, if you've obviously seen the video in the chat, is the fact that you did actually film as much as you reasonably could in all the conditions. We didn't just get a cut to 50 miles high, here I am. There were so many snippets of the journey throughout. I think that was a really important thing to, like you said, to document it, because without you filming it, people would have gone, oh, it rained a bit. But actually, no, it properly rained. It properly rained.
But I think, to be fair, though, I don't think I captured it as good as I could have through the night when it was raining, because it really was horrible.
Yeah.
There was still a few things that I cut out, but it's so hard to film during the night. If it
Mm.
had rained during the day, you would have got the full experience. You know what I mean? So to find footage that's usable, that sort of actually means something to the story, was
Yeah.
hard. But I'm glad that you got some enjoyment out of it. You know, it clearly did show a bit of what it was like.
Yeah, and in terms of dot watching as well, you sat in third for ages and ages and ages, and what it looked like, there was nobody ever near you. I guess you may be able to see the person in second, but certainly fourth seemed to be quite a way back for a long, long period of the race. So apart from, well, I guess with your pacer, you would have been on your own for miles.
There was a lot of solo running. I think I said from about, I don't know, about 30k in, I think I was pretty much on my own, and then I was on my own running right up to nearly 100k. So it was a good sort of stretch. But I would, as I said in the video, I think, pull up to an aid station. I'd see Andrew there, who was in second, or he might have been in third at that point, because I think there was a bit of a change in with Leonie, the first lady. I think her and him sort of chopped and changed a little bit into second and third. So I would always put up to an aid station. He'd move on pretty quick. And I was just thinking, oh, can I at least have like 10 minutes with you? But then I knew that's not a sensible thing. Just I need to sort myself out before I move on, because I will regret it later on if I don't get food, if I don't fill my bottles up, if I don't have a cup of tea now. Then that rushing to an aid station's not really made any benefit. I'm not going to stay with him, because I'll be absolutely shot. So I might as well just take my time, enjoy the food, and then move on when I'm ready.
Yeah. So how long are you at an aid station, do you think, roughly?
I haven't actually looked at the stats, as you might well be aware, since you're the stats man. You know about my running, but
I didn't look at that either. But I'm thinking about those little shots of like grabbing a pizza, stuff like that. Because again,
that was
aid
the
stations
longest
and other
time.
races.
I sat down the halfway one. When I had the pizza, I actually sat in a chair. That was the first time I think I've done that in a race. Sat in a chair and ate the pizza. Usually I'd stand up and eat, but I thought, I'm just going to sit down. And I think that was probably about 10 minutes, maybe tops. The rest of them, I was pretty much in and out in 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, in hindsight, I probably could have. This is something for the future if I do the race again, but I probably could have just sped through a lot of those early aid stations and not bothered, because I had the luxury of having crew so often between them. So that could have sped me up a little bit. But I think that midpoint one was the longest stop. And then from then, I probably had another sort of, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes. I don't think it was a full 10 at Housestein Farm. That was like late in the night, and it had just finished hammering it down, and it was nice to stop there for a minute. I had a couple of cups of tea just to re-warm myself and then get going again. So they were the biggest stops at aid stations.
And are your paces picking up afterwards, saying, look, you wanted to hit sub 22, we've got to get a move on now? Or what,
Um,
what's their role in that? Or are they just there to keep you moving forward?
So Danielle very much did that. She was very aware of the times cut-offs because she's likes to organize. She has everything down on spreadsheets. She's very, very methodical with how she plans things, and she wants everything to run to a schedule. So she had done her own sort of planning for this, and she'd even got her own little pacing card that she'd laminated and everything. Like, she was on the ball. So Danielle definitely did hurry me along in the latter stages. Rob was literally just there for the banter. Like, I was feeling so dire at certain points through that night in the rain and that, and between aid stations, just walking in this torrential rain, and he just kept me motivated and G'd up. So both of them did their jobs phenomenally. Like, they both attacked it from a different, perspective, but they both did exactly what I needed them to do when I needed them to do it. And I can't fault them.
So through that latter half of the night and into the morning, are you still looking at your watch, or are you kind of just thinking, I need to just keep? At what point is the pacing then not irrelevant? Because you've gone off fast, roughly what you're aiming at. That's a bit I don't kind of get in my head when I'm thinking. Are you kind of going, right, well, there's just 20 miles to go, what will be will be, or are you still thinking, I need to really
Yes, I'd very much settled into that mindset in the end. I kind of knew that I knew I was going to beat my North Downs time, so I kind of got a little bit complacent about it. I was like, oh, well, I'm going to beat 22:11. It's fine. I'm not worried about it. But Danielle was very much thinking of what I'd said in my video of trying to get that sub 22. So she was trying to push me every little bit. It's like, right, run to there and not to that gate. Just go past it. Just keep going. And it did work. So yeah, it's just a case of just getting your head down and just telling yourself, don't walk. Just try and run as much as you can. Use it before you lose it.
Yeah. So you're not run walking. You're kind of run jogging. What does that look like? Because I feel like in my mind I'd just be thinking it's a run walk to the end, but how? Because it's elevation. This thing as well. What is it? 4,000 or something meters of elevation. This is not. It's not flat.
Yeah, the last bit, obviously over the Seven Sisters, that was just a brutal finish. There's about 4, I think, back to back, sort of rolling hills. On fresh legs, you could quite easily run them, but when you're it was over 100 miles at that point.
Yeah,
and it's like there was no way. I mean, maybe Tom and Andrew and Leonie, like the better runners, were hitting it hard, but I was in absolutely no position to be running any of those hills. And then it was being sort of selective about what I felt comfortable running. So if I got to the top of the hill, right, let's go, just try and hold it for as long as I could until like my legs were like, no, that's it. And then walk for a short amount as possible. And then as soon as I felt my legs good enough to go again, just go and just keep going and just rinse and repeat, basically. But the hills were obviously all walk at that point, all walk.
So no poles, just for reference here, no poles. Are people using poles where they start line?
Yeah. And Andrew had poles, and he had them out when he passed me at about 50 miles. Oh no, before that, about sort of 40 miles in, he was using them quite efficiently. He was just gone. And I was pretty jealous, but I thought, I don't own any, and I've not really used any. So even if I had them, but yeah, they seem to work pretty well for him.
Yeah. So you're into, let's say now at this point in the last 10 miles or so, it's light. It's light, I think it's light at this point.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's light. You're now seeing some scenery because you missed out on, as you said recently to me, you missed out a chunk of all the good stuff because it was pitch black. So you didn't see any of that. So I guess in terms of motivation, nothing to really look at. But now all of a sudden there's a bit more to see.
The sun came up and the views were stunning. Like, yeah, it definitely did motivate a lot more. And yeah, everyone says the same thing, when it's like being born again. When you see that sun coming up, it's like new dawn, new day. You feel like it's weird, physically and mentally, you feel lifted as well. Like my legs just sort of came back, probably had my 4th wind, It's like it really does make a difference. And by that point as well, my stomach, I'd actually sort of got the ability to eat again.
Right.
So I was eating a lot more. Shout out to Snickers. If you want to sponsor me, Snickers, you can sponsor me, because they were just going in. That was probably the main thing that I was eating for the last sort of 30 miles. I would say
Right.
lumps of Snickers. Honestly, incredible. Lumps of Snickers and cups of tea were an absolute dream.
Like a builder's diet. That's what you want.
Basically, yeah, and just staying away from the Crampex was the main goal.
Yeah. And are you having any moments where you're thinking back to the North Downs Way 100 and thinking, oh, I surprised myself here? I remember at 60, 70, 80 miles, I was in this position.
Yeah. I was feeling much better at the end of this race than I did at the end of the North Downs.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of how the fueling went in that, definitely since the dawn broke, it definitely gave me that lift and I was able to move faster because I was fueling better, especially as I say, for that last 30 than I was over the North Downs. But yeah, it was good to be sort of like in contention there. I mean, I was nowhere near first, but it was good to be up on the podium entering that last 20 miles. I can't remember when I passed Leonie. I think it was just coming into Alfriston. I think she was having a bit of stomach issues and ran down the road, and I could see her crew. And I thought, oh, she can't be that far ahead then if her crew's still here. And we got quite chatty throughout, and I was like, "You're right." And then she appeared out of the car, and I was like, "Oh, whoa, what are you doing? And she's like, "Oh, my stomach." And I thought, "Oh no, what's going on? Is she gonna DNF? What's going on?" But we just cracked on. So that again was one of the things that gave me a lift, just knowing that I'd taken third that late in the day, and then once another thing that Danielle stepped on top of was just keeping an eye on her.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Making sure she was at bay.
In terms of the tracker, are you asking for a check-in? Do you care, or are they just telling you anyway?
Yeah, well, no, Danielle wasn't telling me at all, really. She was just keeping an eye on it for me. In some of the hills, I got the tracker out and had a look myself because I just wanted to know. But there came a point, say when we had like 10k to go or something, where the gap was just too large for us to even worry about it. But after I passed her initially, then we kept checking because there was quite a tough section of the course. Like you get to the long man, they call it. It's a big chalk man on this hill side, and it's quite a steep climb there. So between Alfriston and there, we were checking it sort of semi-regularly just to see if she'd gone through the aid station and was moving again. She was. But by the time we got to the bottom of the long man, there's quite a steep climb, and it's 100% a walker. There's no way you're running it. It's so steep. And by the time we got to that top of that, just had a couple of looks on the way up, and I could see her. She'd just got to the sort of valley at the bottom, and I turned to said to Danielle, I said, "Oh, she's going to be walking this. We'll be gone by the time we got to the top." And then when we got to the top, that's when we started running I thought, if we can put a bit of distance in here, we've pretty much got it in the bag. So I think we ran from the top of the long man with a few odd hill walks. I think we pretty much ran all the way into Chevington aid station from there, and that was the final aid station. So that's when we put a lot of distance in and we were gone.
Yeah, I know. I was dot watching through the night and then obviously into the day, and there were moments where I was having to sort of zoom in because you look really close, and then actually you realise that because obviously what looks like this on your phone, that could be a kilometre, it could be 5. It's quite hard to see unless you've got an immediate check-in at the aid stations where people are. There's definitely a moment towards the end where the dots were within a radius of a couple of squares. There were quite a few dots. I know it kind of goes like this. Quite a few dots where I thought, how close are they? Can they see Ben? Can Ben see them? Because you've got no idea in terms of what the terrain looks like.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, at certain points, I would when I was in fourth, I would check the tracker and I think, oh, I'm eating away at people here, but I never really saw anyone. And the only time that I saw her was when I passed her.
Right.
But then looking at the tracker and where you are in real life, you can't ever really see each other. And because you're moving so slowly in the terrain and stuff, it's very deceptive. I can understand the difficulty behind it, but when you look at it in real life, the gaps are a lot further because you think, oh, she's got to do all that, or he's got to do all that. you know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot
So
different to how it is on the ground, you know.
yeah. So you're in third, and you've got, let's just say, into that last kind of like 3K or so. What's going through your mind at this point? Because you've basically done it, so you must be feeling. What are you feeling? You're nearly there.
I'm feeling that I'm like, what a day out. It's been incredible. What a journey. We've done it. And I knew that the family had already been they were at the finish. I already made a couple of calls to Katie just to check that she was all right and the boys were okay and everyone was there and everyone was waiting. I thought, right, let's just get it done. And just tried to run as much as I could just to get to that finish line. But oh my God, that Beachy Head hill. I don't know. That's a brutal finish. Brutal, mate. It was knee smashing. That's the way I describe that. I didn't film any of it because I was just in bits walking down it. I just wanted to get down to the bottom where I could didn't have to hold on to any. I was like going down and there was these sort of like the finger posts, and I was like run to it, or stagger towards it, grab onto it, steady myself, go to the next one. It was awful. I was just focusing everything on trying to stay up on 2 feet.
Yeah.
And then there was a notice board, I think, like near the bottom. I thought, right, I'm going to make a dart for that. So I went for it and I ran towards it and I pushed it, and the whole thing shook. And oh no, I've broken the South Downs right at the finish line.
Yeah.
But yeah, that final descent into Eastbourne was horrible.
But the views, though.
Oh yeah, being up there on the cliff tops, stunning, man, absolutely stunning. And I think that again is another thing about this race that sold me on it, because I don't, from what I've understood from people and what I've seen in the past and looking at GPX and whatnot, you don't do that in the Centurion race because you sort of peel off towards the industrial estate so you can go around the track.
Yeah.
You don't get to do that whole roller coaster over the Seven Sisters. So I think that was just, that was a perfect way to finish it. Yes, it was tough. Yes, it was mean to make people go up and down all those hills, but it was so worth it. So worth it.
And the photos as well that I've seen are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So you're coming in. So how does this finish? It doesn't finish on a track. It finishes where?
So it finishes in Helen Garden, which is just, I don't know, it's like a little community grounds, like a park type thing, recreation ground. And it's got like a little putting green that you can do, and there's a cafe and stuff. So you run down the Beachy Head hill and then just a little bit of road running, and you go into this, and then you have a lap of that final park, which was nice. It's basically a running track. There was a path that went round the edge of it. So went round the edge and it finished in front of the cafe. And the finish gantry with the whole carpet and everything was awesome. That was a wicked experience. Yeah. Again, something else, like, you got it's not the running track that you get with other races, but it was still pretty damn special. I really did enjoy it. It was.
And what's it like seeing family? Because I know it's only been 22 hours, but you've been through an ordeal for 22 hours. You've been awake for 22 hours. And then you come down, the family are waiting just before
we went into the park there. It was great to see him. It's always good to see him on the finish line, but when you finished 100 miles, it's another level. Like, I love, as much as I can, I'll always try to finish a race with either Zachary or everyone or whatever, because it just does make it so much more special. But doing 100 miles, it can't compare to anything else. It's really, really cool.
I think I'm sure I must have copied you when I did it for my 50s. Did it for the first one kind of accidentally, and by the second one, you sort of feel like, this makes it worth it, because they've been through an ordeal with all the training and stuff.
Exactly.
And it's kind of nice to go, we've done this collectively.
Yeah, it's a team effort. It is a team effort. It really is. And ultimately as well, you get, free family photos. So, I've paid your entry. Might as well get a nice little freebie. And again, top photos, guys. Top photos.
The photos you've got, that I've seen,
pretty damn good.
It makes a big difference, doesn't it? Because you feel like you can really document it well. Obviously, you filmed it, but for those who can't film it, to have just a couple of photos just to sort of go, this is the experience. You can put them up on the wall. These photos nowadays, I feel like the race photos, some really good quality ones, and it just transforms that whole experience, good or bad anyway,
Yeah.
just to have it.
Yeah. You look back on it and you think, yeah, I look good in that. I mean, I
Yeah.
look like I've just run 100 miles, but I'm pretty proud of that photograph.
Yeah. I mean, so for anyone who doesn't know, so you finished the race in third, first in your age category.
Yep.
Is that right?
I don't
Age
know what that is.
category.
It's a male senior or something, isn't it? I don't know. It's a weird one.
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, it's
And
not an
then
age open.
the time. What was the time? Because on Strava it was 20. Oh, there's a helicopter landing in the field.
Landing in your
Over.
garden.
Not my garden. Sorry to cut you off there. I thought it's really noisy. Might be able to hear it. So finish time is what? 20? Was it 22?
22:01.
01.
Yeah, 22:02 on Strava, I think, because I was worried about filming and stuff, so I didn't stop my watch. But yeah, the official was 22:01 chip time, which is pretty damn good. I'm
Yeah.
really, really pleased with that. That said, could I have gone under 22 hours? Yes, if I'd really wanted to. But like I say, I kind of became a bit complacent in the last little 5K or whatever. And
But also,
I knew that I was going to beat 22:11,
yeah,
which is fine.
and it's hard to gauge that with not too far to go, what you'd ordinarily do a 5K and then what you can do on the day. And, you know, you've got the family at the end. You're not trying to rush them around, are you? You're trying to enjoy the experience.
Another thing, I wanted to enjoy that moment and keep everyone together. Could I have just got to the finish line and, you know, sacrificed having that special moment with my family just to burn it around the track for a sub 22? Definitely I could have.
Yeah.
Did I want to? No.
No.
So, yeah.
So you finished it. In terms of things, if you did it again, I think you sort of covered it as just maybe if you could, the benefit of some practice with a bit of heat, assuming it was hot on the day. And I guess that's probably it, isn't it? I think everything else you kind of had squared away. And in terms of running it much, much quicker, that comes down to, I guess, a general fitness and endurance type approach rather than something you can just tweak overnight.
Yeah. Again, I suppose from the finish line perspective, if I'd known more of the course, I would have known where to push.
Right.
And, you know, I could have, especially in the nighttime sections, when you can't see how far a hill up is, it becomes very hard to judge your effort because you kind of think, am I going to be running here up a hill for a long time, or is it just a little? So that, again, if I'd known the course, maybe I could have shaved hour maybe off.
Right.
But who knows? But again, that coming from the North Downs, where I pretty much knew, say, 80% of the course, like I knew when to push, and then I literally faded so much in that last section that I didn't know, and that's what gave me that. But this one, I feel like I balanced it quite nicely, not knowing the course and my effort to get that time off. So if I'd known the course, I'm pretty sure I would have taken a considerable more time off the 22 hours, you know. So
I don't think in terms of training you could have done anything more. I think you were trained so well for it. If it had been a 50 miler, you'd have been so healthy and fit for it that it would have been, I dare say, kind of a breeze, but straightforward. And 100 miler, you weren't too far off being, I guess, as perfectly trained as you could be for your fitness level, for your ability.
For sure. Yeah, I think I used every spare moment that I had and I put it to good use. I mean, in terms of training, like I physically couldn't have run anymore.
No.
Like, yeah, it's and I did manage it in terms of recovery and everything else to keep me injury free. Because even in the lead up to the North Downs, I had that sort of 2-3 week period where I had my IT band flared up, and that put me out. This, nothing. I think I just worked through it methodically and was sensible. And yes, I did end up doing a lot more mileage and stuff, but that's, you know, it's just how your fitness has progressed, isn't it, over the time? So
also, because you've recovered so well, you're capable of doing it. You're not. I think it's also important to mention to people you're not going out there injured, pushing through it in pain. You've got a recovery program in place where to run 26 miles on a Saturday, you can because of the work you've done during the week, and you have built up the mileage obviously over time, but you're still not being complacent with it and just going straight to bed off the back of a run. You're doing your stretching, doing your foam rolling, you're doing your yoga you mentioned earlier, you're doing your bath. all your Epsom salts, all that kind of stuff, and getting in all your vitamins. So you're doing the things that many of us cannot be bothered to do. No, we should be doing.
It's
And
very
that's
valuable.
why
It
we
really is.
suffer.
Yeah, really valuable. Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah. Well, you've done exceptionally well. I'm very proud of yourself. The video's
Thank you.
been seen by a lot of people, and rightly so.
Yes,
That must
thank
be a
you,
good feeling as well, by the
everyone,
way.
for watching that. I really do appreciate it. Like the comments, the reception of that video has been mind-blowing. So thank you, everyone, for watching and commenting and doing all the liking and whatnot. It's
I was saying to Ben as well, as people who put things on YouTube, generally speaking, it's your shoe reviews that get the views and so on and so forth. And sometimes races just go a bit unnoticed. But for a race that's not a centurion race and perhaps lesser known, to see that video do so well and to get the reception it has, I think is really, really important, because it's something that you take for granted if you don't normally use YouTube. But actually, it could have had 100 views. It's had a lot more than that. I think over time, as people start to realize there's another alternative race that is cheaper, and let's face it, races are getting expensive. I think you did a really good thing by shining a light on this ultra in particular.
I just hope that if anyone's thinking about doing this race in the future, like, you really should. It's definitely worth a good. It's worth a go. It's a really good race, like really well organized. The course is brilliant. Yes, it's not the South Downs way, like the whole way. You've got them other different trails. You've got the Monarchs Way and the Staunton Way, but the course is fantastic. Like, so much variation of terrain, woodland, the exposed fields that you get, a little bit along the river, Arundel as well, which you don't get. I've seen the castle and all that kind of stuff. Phenomenal. And like you say, I don't think it's quite getting the coverage that it deserves. There, as far as I'm aware, there isn't another video of the 100-mile race on YouTube, so that could be the reason why it's got a bit of traction. But yeah, brilliant. I can't speak highly of it enough, really. I think if you're in the market for a 100-mile on the South Downs and you don't you haven't got a lot of money to burn, it's definitely worth a look. For sure.
And they were really, really good at engaging with the social media posts that we were doing, because I was doing a social media post through our Guildford Trail Runners account, and it was just nice to see them kind of like it. You don't ask for people to share the story, but it made a change to see that and not feel like you're a burden, because sometimes you're posting it and you're tagging, you're thinking, oh, they're just going to ignore this, which they often do. But it was just quite nice for them to, a little response, a little reaction, a little well done. That makes a difference, because you feel like, you're not doing it for them, but you are giving some exposure to them. And when they give a little something back, that's just kind of a rewarding feeling as well, even just for me who wasn't taking part in it.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I met Neil, the race director, at the start line. He'd been following along with the training journey.
Oh, great.
It was just nice for him to come over and say, oh, Ben, like, loved your videos, mate. Best of luck today, kind of thing. It was nice. And then he was there at the finish line, shook my hand at the finish line, and it was, really cool.
And
really
also,
nice, really nice little community behind it.
T-shirt was good. Medal was good.
Yeah. I should have worn it, shouldn't I? I've got to hang it.
Sorry.
Gleam it out of here. Look, I've got it here. Look. Yeah. I've got it inside out, freshly washed. Here we go. Yeah, lovely.
Well, again, that makes a difference, doesn't it? When you've got a nice bit of merch.
Lovely piece of kit. Here we go.
Doesn't say third place, does it, though?
No, it doesn't. But there you go. Does that come out? Yeah, it's nice.
That's good.
It's got the route on the back there. Yeah, it's good.
That's nice.
Nice bit of running kit. And then, and the buckle is the main star of the show, right?
Let's have a look at the buckle.
I'll tell you what, with all this, I'm never going to be able to line up at a Centurion race again. They're going to hate me. So that's the buckle there. So yeah, it's quite
nice.
It's a nice piece. It's a big, heavy piece of metal, right?
So what's that for? That's just for everyone gets
one of these, right? Everyone gets one of these. This is,
okay.
That's a Centurion one.
Look at that! Wow,
it's about
size matters.
It's about what? Just over half, double the size, I would say.
Yeah,
nearly.
That's quality.
And the only difference is you got the one day on the top. But I mean, that's quite an impressive piece.
Have you worn it yet with your cowboy boots?
I don't currently own a belt or boots or any of that stuff. But again, UK Ultra there. It's cheaper. It's cheaper.
But also,
I understand costs and everything. But I'm just highlighting the fact, it's cheaper.
You say that though, but you've got a smaller field with UK Ultra. So actually, in terms of like cost effectiveness, they're probably shelling out a little bit more money. But look at it. That's a nice piece of metal.
And they do the whole, you know, volunteer thing, and you get a free. So they work in that similar sort of fashion. So yeah, well worth a look. Can't
Ben,
big them up.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I hope you are proud of yourself because, like I say, for somebody watching it, and I know we haven't had a chance to really talk about it properly, the training is just mind blowing. Honestly, it's mind blowing. The fact that you're able to do it and then enter the race, and then you're running now. We're what, 2 weeks out from the race. You've been running since. So just yeah, huge well done. And like I say, if you are in the chat, you've not seen the video. I'm guessing you have. Do check it out. And if you've got the time to, if you wouldn't mind, just a little share on social media, because I think it's a really important insight into what 100 mile looks like, regardless of whether it's South Downs or whether it's in America, whatever it is. I think it was just really well captured. And you showed enough behind the scenes for me to know, oh, okay, that's how many times you saw your mum and dad, you know, within reason. That was what that looked like. That's what that looked like, rather than these snapshots when it's done in 3 minutes and I don't have a clue what went on.
Thanks.
Yeah, just loved it. And I watched on the big screen as well. So, Kate's into the chat. She probably wants to get a room back.
Yeah. Love Island's on now. Love
Island's on. Well, yeah, so awesome to talk with you. Thanks everyone who turned up for the chat tonight.
Thank you very much for your time to quiz me. Like, this has definitely made this whole thing a lot easier, being able to just, you know, let it flow organically rather than me trying to remember everything off the top of my head. So thank you for your time.
Like I say, Daniel. We didn't have a chance to speak. We normally do talk about these things, but
saved it all for this.
We have. Yeah,
right.
Well,
that's it. We'll shut it off now. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time this evening. And yeah, we'll see you again out on the trails very soon. Videos will resume soon after this. So have a good one. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you soon. Peace.